boys and girls, when you get to week 5 of your work packets, you will start using your math workbooks that we had in the classroom and your practice pages that we always did for homework. So you will actually use your Go Math books starting with week 5. And this is geometry, and your first lesson is going to be in chapter 11, where we're going to identify three-dimensional shapes. So your I can statement is going to be, I can identify three-dimensional shapes. I brought my three-dimensional shapes home. You've seen these before. We have a chart in the back of the room on our math bulletin board, and also I have pulled these out before, so we have talked about them and looked at them before. This one, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 that I brought home. This one is a pyramid. This is a cone. This is a cylinder. This is a sphere. And this is a cube. We've looked at these before in the classroom, and we've identified things in the classroom that also have the same shapes. I remember us talking about our Clorox wipes and Lysol wipes having the shape of the cylinder. We also talked about paper towel rolls and things like that having the shape of a cylinder. We have talked about the cone having the shape of an ice cream cone. We also talked about it having the shape of a party hat. Some birthday parties, when you attend those, they pass out and give everyone those little party hats that are like a cone shape, just like this. So that is a good example. A cube simply looks like a box. We've talked about some of our Kleenex boxes that are actually square look like a cube. But some of our Kleenex boxes, like the one I have here at home today, is actually a rectangular prism. I do not have a wooden shape that's a rectangular prism, but this Kleenex box is a perfect example of a rectangular prism. We had some of these in our classroom back by the windows. That's where all of you got Kleenex all the time. We had the rectangular prism in the back, and if you remember, we had a cube-shaped Kleenex box up on my filing cabinet. It was actually the square shape, the cube shape. The sphere is the next three-dimensional shape, and we've talked about it before in the room. It's like a ball, like a basketball, a volleyball, a soccer ball. Our globe in the classroom is actually a sphere. And a sphere is round like a circle, but a circle is drawn on a piece of paper or on the board, and it's flat. You can't actually feel the sides. But the sphere is ball-shaped, and you can feel the roundness. So that would be the difference from a circle and a sphere. You're going to be doing this, like I said, in Chapter 11. Your first lesson in Chapter 11 will have a story. And the story is, let's see if I can find it. Remember, it has a barn. Find it in my book. It's called A Farmer's Job. And you will go through that story. You can read that story, or an adult can read it to you. And you can locate those shapes on each page in that story. Also, on the first day of that lesson, you will do the warm-up at the beginning. On the first page, it will have a hot air balloon, and that will be the warm-up, the things that we do before the actual lesson. So you're going to show what you know, and that's exactly what it says on page 506. Show what you know. So you're going to identify those three-dimensional shapes that I just pointed out to you on this video. So that's a little show what you know, and then there's a little count the sides game that you can do for fun. It's extra, but it's not required in the lesson. The actual lesson, your first lesson, is 11.1 on page 509, and the back is 510. And again, it is where you're identifying the cube, the sphere, the cylinder, the rectangular prism, and the cone. And you will also have page 511, 512 also for that lesson. For the day after 11.1 would be 11.2. You can explain to your parents how we always did those lessons. We would do 11.1 on one day, and we would do the practice page that goes along with it that night for homework. Then the following day we would do 11.2, And for homework, we would do the practice page that goes along with 11.2. If they don't do it exactly like we did, it's okay. Work at your own pace using these packets. It's up to you, the pace that you go. You can get it finished quickly. You can take your time. Just make sure that the packets are completed mid-May, because there will be portions of this where you will get credit for it. There will be some grading involved in this, so don't just not do it. The next part of the lesson that I wanted to do on this video to point out and show you is on page 514, where we're talking about attributes of three-dimensional shapes. So I wanted to talk about that and go over that with you. The attributes of the three-dimensional shapes would be where we talk about the face, the edge, and the vertices. The faces are the flat parts of the shape, and you see flat parts here. We're going to count those faces. The edges are right here along the sides and around the top, the edges. The vertex or the vertices would be these little points on the little corners of the shapes on the front and the back. So a face is the flat parts. The edges are actually what it says. It's the edges all around this cube, and the vertices would be the little points or the little corners. So first we're going to look at this cube, and we're going to count the faces. The bottom would be 1, top 2, the front would be 3, the back would be 4 faces, the side would be 5, and the other side would be 6. So a cube and a rectangular prism have how many faces? 6 faces. Let's just prove that by looking at our rectangular prism. Bottom, 1, top, 2, front, 3, back, 4, side, 5, side, 6. 6 faces on a rectangular prism and a cube. Now let's talk about the edges on the cube and the rectangular prism. Let's count the edges. Okay, 1, 2, the back, 3, 4. Now we got to go on the top. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we've got to go on the bottom. 9, 10, 11, 12. There are 12 edges on the cube. Let's look at the rectangular prism. We've got to count the edges. Let's go around the top. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go around the bottom. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now let's go around the front. 9, 10, and the back. 11, 12. So 12 edges on the rectangular prism and on the cube. Now looking at vertices, when we count vertices, we're counting the points on it. Remember, the corners, the little pointy edges. Ready? Let's count on the cube. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices on the top. 5, 6, 7, 8 on the bottom. So the cube has 8 vertices. Let's check out the rectangular prism. Count on the top, vertices. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let's count them on the bottom. 5, 6, 7, 8. The rectangular prism and the cube both have 8 vertices. Now, that wasn't so hard, was it? Okay. So when you're looking at faces, it's the flat part of the shape. When you're looking at edges, they're exactly what they say they are. They're the edges on the shape. When you're talking about vertices, it's just a fancy word for the little points or the corners of the shape. So I think that will make it clear for all of you when you get to Chapter 11 in math. And again, it begins week 5. And right now we are not near week 5. I was just thinking ahead, and I wanted to go ahead and do a video on this to help everyone, or try to help everyone. So anyway, I hope this helps. Remember, it's week 5 in geometry, 3-dimensional shapes. Thanks.